Because there's no LeBron James. The NBA announced yesterday it was suspending him for his role in the altercation with Pistons forward Isaiah Stewart. A few decades ago. Recklessly hitting Stewart in the face and initiating an on-court altercation. That's the reason why.
Yeah, those Pistons teams wouldn't have put up with this.
Totally different back in the day. Hello to JJ Redick, our ESPN NBA analyst. JJ, what was your reaction to LeBron's one-game suspension?
I thought both suspensions were appropriate. LeBron getting a game, Isaiah Stewart getting 2. I think if we look at this in some sort of context where we take away the players' names, neither of these guys have had a history of any violent or aggressive acts. They've not been in trouble with the league at all. Clearly, Isaiah Stewart had a fit of rage in chasing down LeBron, knocking over coaches and teammates. But the one thing I would say, this was compared to the Malice in the Palace. I saw this all day yesterday, Malice in the Palace 2. I watched both of these events live. There is no comparison. This was a fairly run-of-the-mill scuffle in the NBA.
I'm so glad you said that. I thought it was preposterous that there was even an attempt at comparing the two incidents. It probably speaks to where we are as a society as a whole today. But in general, LeBron James missing the one game, by the way, $284,000, his first suspension of his career. Meantime, the Lakers did rally to win that game. Yes, it was just against the Pistons, but it's a game. And here's head coach Frank Vogel afterwards on how his team came together after what happened. Listen.
To me, it's one of those things that can change the momentum of your season. You know, to see guys rally around a teammate that just got ejected like that, you know, in a strange circumstance. Played with incredible guts. Started the fourth quarter down 15, and you know that's the determination that this team is going to need.
Sometimes, JJ, I mean, you know better than any of us. It can just take one thing, one incident, one moment that teams can use that to turn things around. How can they use this as maybe a learning experience?
Sure. I was watching this game live, and they were flat up until this altercation, just like they've been flat for most of this season. Mm-hmm. So I think there has to be a real sense of urgency. They have to play with more energy. But the reality is we're 20% of the way through the regular season. This team is 500. They're sitting in 9th place. They were in the play-in game last year. When you look at the West right now, barring some long winning streak, this looks like a team that is headed for a 6 or 7 seed and possibly the play-in game again. So I think structurally within the team, I've said this a few times, they need more shooting. They need more playmaking on the court and more shooting.
And maybe even just more time to get all of these veterans that they brought in learning how to play together. They're in the 9th spot right now in the West. The Knicks are in the 9th spot in the East. And there were high expectations of Tom Thibodeau and company in his second year in the Big Apple. Obviously, Julius Randle has not had the season so far that he was having last year, his first All-Star season. What are you seeing from the Knicks as a whole, though, JJ?
Last year was a magical season for them. They overachieved. That's the reality. And they're probably underachieving a little bit to this point. This is not a typical Tom Thibodeau team. I think they're 18th in the league in defense right now. Tom wants that to be up in the top 5. Remarkably, they have the worst defense in the fourth quarter in the NBA. So you're not going to win a lot of games when you're defending it at that sort of clip. If you look at the standings right now in the East, though, the two teams directly ahead of them are the Milwaukee Bucks, who've had a bunch of injuries and are the defending champs, and the Philadelphia 76ers, who have missed Joel Embiid for the last 2 weeks or so. They're going to have a hard time recreating the magic of last year and getting a home court advantage in the first round.
Yeah, as always, stacked in both conferences, but especially there at the bottom part of the Eastern Conference. JJ Redick, thank you, sir. By the way, this is the 4th game and a 5-game roadie for the Lakers. They head to Indianapolis tomorrow night to face the Pacers. Thanks again. We will talk to you very soon.
All right, thank you.
Coming up, Stephen A. weighs in on whether the play that led to LeBron's suspension should be considered dirty. More on that to come. Here's this week's NBA Wednesday doubleheader. We're going to start in Boston. 7:30 Eastern time with KD, James Harden, and the Nets taking on Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Jason coming off of a big game. Boston trying to find their early season groove. And then Stephen Curry and the Warriors, NBA's best record. They host the Sixers, who finish up a 6-game road trip. Hope to have Joel Embiid back from COVID protocols. A big night Wednesday on ESPN. NBA Countdown kicks off our coverage at 7 Eastern. Matt.
Gobble, gobble. Let's talk NFL on Thanksgiving. First course of NFL football this Thanksgiving, Bears-Lions. Justin Fields' status is in question with rib injury, while Detroit enters Thanksgiving winless for the third time in franchise history. There was a gobble. You can follow that up with a late afternoon helping of Raiders and Cowboys. The Raiders last played on Thanksgiving in 2013. They lost to the Cowboys. Meanwhile, Dallas has lost 5 of their last 7 Turkey Day games. And for dessert, Bills and Saints. New Orleans 3-0 on Thanksgiving with Sean Payton. As for Buffalo, just their 7th Thanksgiving game and 2nd this century. Buffalo sauce doesn't go good. Actually, I would contend that it does go well with turkey.
Go with everything.
I agree. Frank's Red Hot, give me all. No teams have played more on Thanksgiving than the Lions and Cowboys. Those are the 2 traditional teams. 1934 for Detroit, 1945 every year since then. The Cowboys have played every year since 1978, but are just 4-7 on a Turkey Day drought right now. So let's bring in Jeff Saturday to talk all things Thanksgiving football. Cowboys have lost 2 of their last 3 games, Jeff, following that 6-game winning streak. They're not going to have Amari Cooper. They may not have CeeDee Lamb. So what does Dallas need to do to get back on track against Vegas?
Get back to running the football. I mean, you think when they won 6 games in a row, it was because they led the NFL in rushing. I think they averaged about 165 yards a game. So they need to find their way back to that. I get they have a lot of firepower on the outside. Dak Prescott is one of the elite quarterbacks in our game. But ultimately, they need to put their hands in the dirt and get after people. You know, with Tyron Smith going down for the last few weeks, hopefully he'll be back. But, man, it sure does help an offensive line when you can beat on that defensive line and you don't got to worry about their pass rush for 4 straight quarters. You saw what Chris Jones did to them in the 4th quarter of that game. So they need to find their way back, and that's from Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator, calling those plays, making sure they're staying true to it, and Mike McCarthy holding his feet to the fire. Because, listen, they've gotten away from it. They need to find it in a hurry.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of up from the Cowboys, but when we see the down from them, it is really down, and we saw it again on that marquee matchup against Kansas City this last week. Meanwhile, the nightcap, a meeting of 2 contenders, that teams that have also been struggling of late. I'm stunned by how bad the Bills have been lately. They're visiting the Saints. For Buffalo, kind of puzzling here. What more do you need to see from them after yet another disappointing effort against Indy on Sunday?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. This is a huge game for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you think they have the Patriots 2 times come up in the next few weeks. This is an enormous football game, and they have to get away from being Josh Allen centric, and that means everything goes through him, and that includes their run game, which has been absolutely abysmal this entire season. And I understand, as good as he is, you want to lean on him, but you're seeing teams be opportunistic on the back end. You saw Jacksonville basically shut their offense down. You saw the Indianapolis Colts do it on Sunday. And then what does that do? That puts an onus on your defense, where if teams stay committed to run the ball or keeping you off the field, that's tough sledding for this defense. So the Bills understand how important this game is. They need to come out, have a better game plan about addressing that, get the ball out of his hands quicker, and develop that run game behind him. I'm telling you, if you think about the Buffalo Bills, if you stop Josh Allen, their offense has no